What's up, everybody? I'm Michael Allen, and this is the Movie Minute. This episode of the Movie Minute, we are talking about Disney's newest live-action remake, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So, if you're looking for a non-spoiler review, let's jump on in. Boy, oh boy, is there so much to talk about with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. As a foundational understanding, even though most of you understand, the story surrounds the Princess Snow White, who is a princess of a kingdom who has lost their king and her mother, and she is now under the evil guise of this evil witch stepmother who is ruling the kingdom and is vain and vindictive and jealous. That sets the tone for her going and finding friendship with some dwarves in the forest who then help her to retake her rightful spot in this kingdom. That is the gist of this story without any major spoilers. So let me tell you what you're getting into, because there's a few specific things you have to know going into this film, right? So way back in 2022, when we first found out that Snow White was being made, and then they cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White, she made some comments about the original film that was like, hey, this film's really weird. She falls in love with her stalker. It's very dated. So she kind of made these comments that are throwaway comments that a lot of people got really, really mad about. So in light of those comments, she kind of walked it back a bit throughout the course of the PR of this film. But ultimately, what it led to is us knowing they were majorly changing the core narrative of this story. They were shifting it away from the prince saving the princess and to more of a story that's princess-centric, which they've done with a lot of their live-action films. This is not new. It's something they've done with most of their princess films up to date when making the live-action remakes. Now, there are a few of these live-action Disney remakes that have been good, and their key to success has been balance. And that balance has been balancing the classic feel of these original movies while introducing new progressive elements of storytelling that elevate the content for our current society and culture. Then they have the controversy surrounding Peter Dinklage and him basically commenting how backwards the story of Snow White is and questioning whether Disney's doing it or not, and kind of challenging them and saying, hey, you should be doing different stories or you should completely change the story. Then Disney came out and was like, we are changing the story. And then it got rolled into this whole thing where Disney decided to make the dwarves visual effects characters instead of real characters. Then there was even more backlash because there are people who are diagnosed with dwarfism who are actors who are like, we want those roles. We want the parts. We want to be involved in these stories, and they didn't get a chance. So all that played out and created this negative PR storm for Snow White. Then you throw in Gal Gadot and all the controversy surrounding her being Israeli, and it just is a PR nightmare. So to say this film is coming in with a lot on its shoulders is an understatement of the decade. Now that you have a general foundation for all the controversies and this film going into the review, let's jump in and talk about what I liked. All right, so one thing you need to know about this movie that maybe not a lot of reviewers are talking about, but I'm going to tell you right now. This film is a kids' movie, okay? It was made for children. It was not made for adults. It was not made for Disney purists. It was not made for Disney nostalgia people who look back at Disney and be like, oh, the wonderful days of Disney. This film was not made for those people. It was made for children. And that is going to shade my whole review. You have to understand that it was made for kids. Their key demographic, I believe, from a director-writer standpoint, was probably ages 7 to 12, 7 to 13. That was their demographic. 7 to 13, girls specifically. First and foremost, let's just get it out there. The world is great. Disney does this super well. The world is beautiful. I think that the locations are incredible. All of that, the costumes, the feel of the film is fun. It really captures the look and feel of Disney movies. And that's probably the most enjoyable part of this entire film. The only other highlight for me was that the music was okay. Like the soundtrack. I'm not talking about the songs. I'm talking about the soundtrack itself. There were elements of the old film in it, and I think that those definitely made me smile. But that's basically it. So with these movies in general, the list is far too long to really understand what I didn't like, but it all fits into this caveat of the movie being for kids. The writing in this film is absolutely terrible. Now, what do I mean by terrible? I mean that, like, the actual dialogue is cheesy and lame? Yep. The story structure itself, like how the story moves from beginning to end, is terrible. It's broken. It's all over the place. It doesn't know exactly what it wants to do in each scene. Several of the scenes just feel like little vignettes that are completely separate from the story entirely. And that is terrible when it comes to storytelling. But let me tell you, my 7-year-old daughter does not care about any of that. Literally. And that's why this film is written for children. I can see all the problems, but will my daughter watch this and be like, wow, the story doesn't make any sense? Probably not, because she doesn't care. All she cares about is Snow White singing and playing with the dwarves and hanging out with the prince and fighting the queen. And all of those things exist in this film, just not cohesively. Let's talk about the most painful part of this film, because I've seen it, people talking about it. People have been saying, oh, Rachel Zegler's amazing. That's just not true. I mean, she's not great in this movie. She's not terrible, but she's not great. And then I don't even want to get into Gal Gadot. I mean, there are moments with her as the queen that are like, oh, this could have been something, but her performance as well is weird and uncomfortable, not to mention her song that she sings in this film. There are a lot of extra songs, and her song is cringe-worthy uncomfortable with her. It's like she's never sang a musical number before, and so it's overacted and very, very weird. Even how I was talking with a friend, like how she moves and dances in it is just uncomfortably weird. You know, Ziegler was talking about, oh, the old film is weird. This film is weird. It's just so many weird, awkward moments. And then the number one thing that I think a lot of kids are going to overlook, again, just like kids loved Jar Jar Binks, okay? And that is the truth. As much as you want to fight it, Jar Jar was beloved by children, okay? That is the same for the dwarfs in this. The dwarfs are completely creepy and weird. The VFX absolutely lives in the uncanny valley space the whole movie, as well as the voices were weird for the dwarves. They didn't fit and match up well with their visual depiction, I think. And so the entire film, you're just like, these guys are creepy and weird and uncomfortable, but kids are gonna love them because they're silly and weird, and kids love that kind of stuff. So this film is really, really difficult to rate fairly, I guess, because from a film rating, this film is not good. It's just not. But will children find it entertaining? Absolutely, I think children will find it entertaining in that demographic. So from an entertainment standpoint, this film was not entertaining for me. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10. I struggled the whole film. Not to mention, I just thought it was boring overall. It was not something that caught my attention the whole movie. From a critic's rating, it's all over the place. The writing is terrible. The VFX is weird. The film doesn't mesh or pace right. It's just off. And so from a critic's rating, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 10. It just was not good. So averaged out for me, 3.5 out of 10 for Snow White. It just is a bad movie. So from a bad standpoint, what am I going to give this film? This film is 100% a dumpster fire. So, got the dumpster fire right there, flaming pile of garbage. But my kids would probably give it a popcorn bucket because they would love to see this film. And so, it's just a hard thing, right? When this is a film that is not really meant for me, and it's not meant for a lot of people. But that's sad because the original Snow White is a classic for a reason. This is a Brothers Grimm fairy tale that has been popular for over a century, and they absolutely destroyed that classic feel completely. It doesn't exist in this film. At the end of the day, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is just another live-action remake that Disney has made that goes into the bucket of a film that should not have been made. They just shouldn't have made this film. just go on and do something else. Lilo and Stitch looks fun. It looks like a great remake possibility. Stick with those. Stay away from the classics, trying to make them relevant, trying to make them new for new audiences, because it doesn't work. And you're not even really putting in the work to make it fun and make it enjoyable for everybody. So jump down in the comments. Let me know if you're going to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs this weekend. And let me know if you did see it, what you thought of the film. And until next time, everybody, peace out.